I won't tell you what I will do, but I'll finish it. You know what I mean? Like that's classic Trump. Just like, giving federal recognition to a Native American tribe and then permanently locking them as Trump supporters, like that one specific tribe. It's always, he does this stuff all the time. By the way, Donald Trump is holding a press conference, and we're going to get into that after I blast off, or rather, I'm going to get into it right now.
A country in Russia's position could allow them, just in their position, could allow them to join NATO.
So let's do it!
And long before President Putin,
did Tamasia send a playlist?
Russia was very strong on the fact that, I believe that's the reason the war started. Because Biden went out and said that they could join NATO, and he shouldn't have said that. As soon as he said that, I said, you know what?
Weirdly enough, maybe Trump will save Imran Khan. Who knows?
This is a war that would have never happened if I were president.
You don't think it's President Biden's fault, not President Putin? I mean, he's the one.
I think Biden is incompetent, and I think when he said that they could join NATO, I thought that was a very stupid thing to say. I thought when he said, well, it depends if it's a minor incursion. In other words, it's okay if Russia does a minor incursion. I thought that was a very foolish thing to say. The other thing that got it started was how badly Milley and these.
Why would Trump of all people save Imran Khan? Because he's a base third worldist, dude.
I was going to pull out, but we were pulling out with dignity and strength, and we were going to take our equipment with us and everything else. They are.
Don't joke about that. Pakistani Americans voted for Trump because they believe he will release him. Wait, really?
That mess, and he said, "Wow, this is a great time. I'm going to go in." But what the Americans said, I'm not blaming Americans, but I will say what they said had a big influence on his deciding to go in. Yeah.
The most Latin American president of our time. Oh, 100p.
As an American CEO, or did he do so as a representative of the U.S.?
I just don't think that Donald Trump does things that are like inherently
Elon, I don't know.
the diametrical. Not true at all. Most young Pakistanis in my community didn't vote because of Gaza.
Because of the tariffs. They have the highest tariffs just about in the world, and it's a hard place to do business.
Wait, hold
I
on.
would imagine he met.
Let me blast off real quick.
Because, he's running a company. He's doing this as something that he's felt strongly about for a long time, because he sees what's happening, and he sees how the country is really being hurt badly by all of the fraud, waste, and abuse. Yeah.
So how would you know whether he's meeting with the CEO or meeting with a representative of your government?
Well, he's meeting with me in a little while, so I'm going to ask him that question. All right? I'll ask him that question. Yeah.
On auto tariffs, what should we expect, sir? You mentioned obviously steel and aluminum and pharmaceuticals. What are you thinking about auto tariffs? We haven't talked about that.
I think autos are coming soon. I think they're all coming more or less at the same time. And it's not going to be a big shock to the system. But what it's going to do is it's going to bring pharmaceuticals back to our country. Much more important than the money. It's a lot of money, but it's going to bring pharmaceuticals back to our country. It's going to bring chips back to our
Remember
country.
to end Turkish hate.
It's going to bring.
We will never end Turkish hate. Turkish hate will always be. Turkish hate will always thrive in this country. Okay, here.
During the campaign, they were going to build the largest.
Blasting off, ladies and gentlemen. Let the people know we're live. We're alive. Let them. Tell them to get in here.
Me make that statement, and they thought I was going to win the election. Actually, it was a few months before the.
Pakistani Americans thinking Donald Trump would free Imran Khan is so perfectly in line with the way that Donald Trump operates, where probably sent out feelers to the Pakistani community somehow and signaled that he would do that. Okay, so every old Pakistani American immediately locked onto it. Okay. It's no different than him going to Dearborn and being like, I'm going to finish it. I'm going to finish the Gaza stuff. I won't tell you what I will do, but I'll finish it. You know what I mean? Like that's classic Trump. Just like, giving federal recognition to a Native American tribe and then permanently locking them as Trump supporters, like that one specific tribe. It's always, he does this stuff all the time.
To me, it's the most beautiful. And I'll tell you what, I think there's two words. Reciprocal makes tariffs really fair.
Yeah, reciprocal tariffs.
Right? It would be all auto imports?
Any exemptions now, because You don't need to. With reciprocal, you don't need to.
What does that
Arrived at
mean?
ERS?
Fox Radio. Do you have a update on the TikTok negotiations?
Yeah, we have a lot of people.
Timeline's running out, isn't it?
Sure, well, I have 90 days from about 2 weeks ago, right? And I'm sure it can be extended, but let's see. I don't think you'll need to. We have a lot of people interested in TikTok, and I hope to be able to make a deal. I think it would be good. You know, people have learned it's very popular, and we'll have to probably get approval from China to do it. But we have a lot of people that are interested, and a lot of people. I think China will be interested because it's to their benefit too. So I look forward to that. But we have a lot of people that are interested in TikTok. Quite a few.
Mr. President,
Super popular.
workers arrived today, Gavin Klager and others arrived today at the IRS. Do you expect to close the IRS, or what are you expecting?
No,
to
I don't
happen?
expect
You
it,
talked
but
about the ERS.
but I
Someday.
think that the Internal Revenue Service will be looked at like everybody else. Just about everybody's going to be looked at. So it's they're doing a hell of a job. It's an amazing job they're doing. And you know that force is building. These I call it the force of super geniuses, but it's building. And you know they go up and they talk to some of the people about certain deals, and the people get all tongue-tied. They can't talk because these people get it. They're very smart people. We need smart people. Yes, Brian.
On tariffs, sir.
Yeah, Brian.
Yes, sir. Mr. President, I know that during the campaign, it was huge in Pennsylvania as far as bringing back manufacturing. Have we talked to any CEOs since the tariffs were announced on steel and aluminum? What's the feedback from those guys?
They are in love with it. As you know, in Pennsylvania, U.S. Steel is through the roof. They're all through the roof. That's why I didn't want U.S. Steel to make a deal with Japan or anybody else. I think it's going to do great. But I think maybe more than anybody else, the steel companies and aluminum companies, they're in love with what's happened. And this will eventually be the car companies and chip companies. We have to have chips made in this country. Right now, everything's made in Taiwan practically, almost all of it, a little
Sell
bit in
Texas
South
to
Korea.
Japan, Pog.
But everything,
Yes.
almost all of it is made in Taiwan. And we want it to be made. We want those companies to come to our country, in all due respect. You know, they took the business away. Taiwan took our chip business away. We had Intel, we had these great companies that did so well, and it was taken from us, and we want that business back. We want it back in the United States. And if they don't bring it back, we're not going to be very happy.
And you
Sir, on
mentioned
tariffs, are you-
pharmaceuticals as well in China. That's national security to bring that back.
Yeah, China and other places. We want to get the pharmaceutical and drug business back into the United States, where it should be. Right?
Sir, on tariffs, are you concerned that the countries that would be most affected, like India, would just shift their trading to China?
No, I'm not concerned about anything, really. I mean, I'm just doing what's fair. This is a very fair thing. This should have been done a long time ago. I would have done it, but then COVID hit. I was getting ready to do this years ago, and first time we had the most successful economy in history, and then COVID hit, and this was going to be the thing that I was most waiting to do, but it was awfully hard to do this with Italy and France and Spain and all those people were dying, and then we put tariffs on. See, I have a big heart.
Sir, on Ukraine, when Putin says that he really wants peace, do you believe him?
Yeah, I do. I believe he wants peace. I believe that President Putin, when I spoke to him yesterday, I mean, I know him very well. Yeah, I think he wants peace. I think he would tell me if he didn't. I'd like to see peace.
Do you trust President
I
Putin?
believe that, I believe that he would like to see something happen. I trust him on this subject. I think he'd like to see something happen. I think it could have happened a long time ago. I think Biden, number one, it shouldn't have started, but it did. And now all those cities are knocked down, like
Whoa.
demolition sites. All those beautiful golden towers are knocked down. There's nothing going to replace them. But much more importantly, you lost millions of people. A lot of soldiers, but you lost millions of people. When they knocked down those cities, and they're all laying down on the side, they're laying down just in ashes and all crumbled up concrete. They literally look like a world-class demolition site. And many of them, almost all of them, but many of them, and this should have been done by Biden years ago. This should have never been allowed to happen. I know he's a friend of yours.
But couldn't Putin just withdraw his
He's a friend of CNN. That's why nobody watches CNN anymore, because they have no credibility. Okay, who else? Yes, please.
Sir, if you can find a buyer in the United States for TikTok, do you think Xi Jinping will authorize the sale of it, or will
I'm going to make it worthwhile for China to do it. I think so. I mean, I got to know TikTok because during the election, I ended up with 36% higher than my opponent with youth. Okay, that never happened before. I beat, you know, that's always been a Democrat thing, youth. It became a Trump thing. And I think TikTok, I think Joe Rogan was a part of it. Some of the great people that I did interviews with were a part of it. But I think that TikTok was I think it was a big part. Look, as you know, we were up by 36% with youth. The Republican was never up with youth. And I focused on TikTok, and I found it to be amazing, actually, and very fair. And I think the image of TikTok is different than it was before the election. I think people saw it and they view it as a positive, not a negative. I think it'll be to China's
no one
advantage.
saw it as a negative, dog. That was just that was not a thing.
What money do you think you'll raise from tariffs on an annual basis?
That's the most interesting question. I think it'll be a staggering amount.
He keeps saying that when he literally lost the youth vote. Yeah, he's just simply. He's wrong, of course. He didn't win the youth vote by 36%. He got 36% of the youth vote, if I'm not mistaken. And that is a significantly larger percentage of the youth vote than he had gotten prior. He still lost the youth vote, but there is a significant number of Gen Z voters that voted for Donald Trump. It's true. It's a dangerous trend line if you are worried about Republicans winning elections, for sure.
Important things. Space Force, the biggest tax cuts in history. You know, this could be one of the most important things that we've ever seen.
I mean, there are very few things that Donald Trump says that are correct. Or I guess sometimes he will say the truth. Oftentimes he'll say the truth when it's like something that people get very mad about. But it's just like American foreign policy where he'll be like, yeah, you know, we're going to do ethnic cleansing and it's going to be awesome. Like, that is just American foreign policy. That's been the American foreign policy. He just says the quiet part out loud. But outside of that, he rarely ever says the truth. Oh, he got 46% of the youth vote, which is up 36% up from what he got in 2020. Okay, thank you. I got the numbers wrong. But I mean, he did not get the majority of the youth vote.
I think Putin would love to be back.
So why exactly can't he stop the war now? Feels weird to blame Biden for something happening under Trump's watch.
It's very possible that if that was the G8, you wouldn't have had the problem with Ukraine. And if I was president, you definitely wouldn't have had the problem with Ukraine. Russia would have never attacked Ukraine. But you ask a very good question, the G8. It used to be the G8, and then these people...
No, he didn't get...
Out, and I was...
He didn't go from 10% to 46%. Hold on, I'll look it up. I'll look up the numbers in a second. Okay, hold on one. We'll get to that in a moment.
Prime Minister Abe, a great man from Japan, agreed with me 100%. And some of the
today
others
I'm going to be covering Trump's favorabilities anyway.
They had we'll get to that. Terminated. I think it would have been very helpful, and it still would be helpful to have Russia be a part of that mix. And I think if they were, I don't think you would have had the problem that you have right now.
Russia is part of the G20.
They kicked them out, of course, because they illegally annexed Crimea. I mean, how would you have responded if Russia invaded or took over?
They took Crimea during Obama. 2014. They took, well, now they're looking to take the whole thing. Then they took a big chunk of land and people, as you know, during Bush. And now they're trying to take the whole thing during Biden.
During Bush? The only one. Is he talking about like Georgia or something?
They took anything with Trump, nothing, not 2 inches of property of land. But Crimea was Obama. And then Bush gave him a lot, if you remember. And then, in fact, it's a sort of a standard little phrase. And Biden's giving him everything because this is a war that shouldn't have been had. And the only one that didn't give him anything is Trump. It's just the way it is.
What's the message from Wall Street about these tariffs? So there's been some nervousness on Wall Street about the impact.
I think
it hasn't been very
Georgia,
much. I think it's
Georgia was in Obama as well. Georgia was during Obama as well, but it was due to George W. Bush. I think he just got that wrong.
You know, other countries want to have a strong United States. They want to have a strong America. And I think it's going to make us very, very strong, much stronger. And we have a lot of work we're doing on the military. Our military already, I've authorized some contracts to be built that are very substantial. We're building the greatest equipment in the world. We have the greatest military equipment in the world. We're building it. At some point,
Georgia was
when
summer
things
of
settle down, I'm
2008.
gonna
I was
meet
in
with
D.C.
China,
that summer.
and I'm going to meet with Russia in particular, those two. And I'm going to say, there's no reason for us to be spending almost $1 trillion on military. There's no
Georgia was
reason
at the
for you
end
to
of
be
Bush's
spending
second term.
$400 billion. China's going to be at $400 billion. We're at $1 trillion. We're going to be at close to $1 trillion. And I'm going to say, we can settle this on, we can spend this on other things. We don't have to spend this on military because, and I'm going to be meeting with China. You know, we were trying to de-escalate nuclear, and I was in a position where Russia had agreed and China had agreed we were going to start, and then we had a rigged election, so that never took place. But this one was too big to rig. We won by so much that it was
Too big to rig.
You want to do the China meeting in the United States, or would you travel to China for that?
For what?
The China meeting. Would you do that here or
I
there?
tell people all the time, you know, the question is who's going to have the first meeting, where are you going to, I say this to Putin, to President Xi, I say to everybody, never bothered me, you know, I'm willing to say I'll go first. It doesn't matter. It's the end result that counts. So it doesn't make any difference.
When do you want to have a conversation about global defense spending, you, China,
Well,
Russia?
I'd like to have that, as soon as things settle down, I'm going to have that conference, primarily with China and Russia, because those are the two that really are out there. And we're going to have them spend a lot less money, and we're going to spend a lot less money. And I know they're going to do it. They agreed to it. We were talking about denuclearizing, and President Putin and I agreed that we were going to do it in a very big way. There's no reason for us to be building brand new nuclear weapons. We already have so many. You could destroy the world 50 times over, 100 times over. And here we are building new nuclear weapons, and they're building nuclear weapons, and China's building new nuclear weapons, and China's trying to catch up because, you know, they're very substantially behind, but within 5 or 6 years they'll be even. And we're all spending a lot of money that we could be spending on other things that are actually, hopefully, much more productive. Hopefully, there'll never be a time when we need those weapons. If there's ever a time when we need nuclear weapons, like the kind of weapons that we're building and that Russia has and that China has to a lesser extent, but will have, that's going to be a very sad day. That's going to be probably oblivion.
Do you see that as separate conversations, or do you see one giant summit with you, Xi Jinping, and Vladimir Putin?
Yeah, I could see that. Let things calm down a little bit. You know, when I left, we had no Middle East problem. We had no Russia going into Ukraine. They never would have done it. Putin never would have done it. And I came back, and we got like the whole world is blowing up. So when we straighten it all out, then I want to have with President Xi of China, President Putin of Russia, and I want to say, let's cut our military budget in half. And we can do that.
Remember when you said the Homeland Security,
we'll be able to do
Gulf of America thing was being overblown? Yeah, I mean, they're petty as fuck. This doesn't change what I'm saying.
After that spending as well, that's been.
What are you talking about?
Waste.
This is
fraud,
what
and
they're
abuse.
doing
Yeah,
with
and we're
that,
doing
but it's overblown in terms of like, it's not that significant of a difference.
Or would you use
It's just like a silly aesthetic thing that they did.
Includes China and Russia, the G20.
No, it's the people. It's President Putin, President Xi. I don't need bodies. I don't need anything. It's people. It's all about people. It's about relationship and people. And, you know, I've had a good relationship with President Putin. I've had a good relationship with President Xi. It's about people. And I think when things straighten out, which I hope will be in the not too distant future, the meeting I want to have first
They will
is a
not
meeting
cut
with China and a
the
meeting with
military
Russia
spending
on slowing down, stopping, and reducing nuclear weapons in particular, and also on not having to spend the kind of money we're all spending on weapons, military weapons generally.
I think my question is, would you have those meetings separately with each of those leaders, or would you try to bring them all together?
Both. You start off separately, and that's what was happening. I was dealing with President Putin. We had really an understanding where we were going to denuclearize. What a beautiful term that is, right? Denuclearize. What a great thing if we could do that. And we were going to. He really
a
liked the idea of
denuclearization agreement would literally make Donald Trump the greatest peacekeeper of all time.
COVID hit.
It's of course not going to happen. And the idea that it would ever happen is
An election that was too big
pure
to win.
fantasy.
So my whole thing
But
was
he
too
would
big to Reagan.
absolutely be
They tried,
worthy
but
of
they
every
didn't pull it
Nobel
off.
Peace Prize going forward if that
Would you also
institution
direct
actually
agencies to study the
truly
impact it would
gave
have
peace
on
prizes
businesses in
to
the US?
people who were peacekeepers in
There's
general.
nothing to study.
Okay?
There's nothing to study. It's going to go well. The United States is going to become a very, very strong economic.
Can you imagine
economically country.
Donald
Yeah.
Trump facilitates the denuclearization of the entire planet? Yes, the same way you said Russia would not invade Ukraine. Yes, exactly. Yeah. I like that. I like that you guys can only harp on one note over and over again. That's what I mean. Yes. I wonder why you can't point to any other things aside from that, because it's always wrong, regardless of how much you fucking cry about it at the time. I hope I'm wrong. I just don't think that, Donald Trump will ever denuclearize the United States of America.
Biden in particular, I guess he said that, they have us over a barrel. They don't have us over a barrel. We have them over a barrel.
A world without nukes would be
BRICS
much
wants
more
to play
dangerous?
games. Those
What?
countries won't trade with us. We won't trade with.
What are you saying? A world without all nukes? What do you mean? What is happening? No, objectively, not having world-ending weapons would be a good thing. Okay? What?
Mitch McConnell has now voted against several of your nominees. He voted against RFK Jr. as the next health secretary, citing conspiracy theories.
He's kind of right in a
What's your
way.
reaction to
Stop hitting the mutually assured destruction. We're talking about the evisceration of all nukes, okay? It is pure fantasy regardless, but you're out of your mind. No, stop talking about mutually assured destruction being the only way to keep peace in the world, and that is what is like kept the world safe or whatever. Look at Ukraine. Look at Ukraine. Please understand. Look at Ukraine. Russia has nukes. America has nukes. There's a reason why Russia and America never actually engage in straight battle. Okay, what's the difference for the people of Ukraine? You make it seem as though countries do not engage in war with one another because they're nuclear powers. Okay, that still doesn't change the dynamic of war. I mean, I guess it changes the dynamic of war a little bit in terms of like countries getting into battles with one another. But the notion that without nukes, Russia and the USA would have gone to war, USA would have suffered 1 million casualties in Japan. Oh my God. Oh my God. It is, no, I disagree with you. I disagree with you across the board, okay? Especially like as it stands currently, if you are a developing nation, you do have to have a nuke in order to avoid American intervention. But the alternative vision for a better world would be that no one has nukes.
Lost his power, and it's affected his vote. And, it's one of those things. But in the meantime, Bobby did great, got more votes than anybody thought. And I think he's going to do phenomenally, just phenomenally in that position. And everybody else likewise did well. Not only well, they got more votes than anybody thought. Tulsi, look at how she did.
He doubted
She did
Mitch
great.
McConnell ever had polio.
Marco
That's
got
amazing.
99 votes. How about that?
He's faking it.
Marco got 99 votes. And Marco, by the way, I have to tell you, Marco Rubio's done a fantastic job. He's been a great Secretary of State. They're all doing great. But we're going to have a swearing in today, and maybe we're going to have a second one,
if we're discussing complete denuclearization, the idea that countries would be better off with nuclear proliferation is an inherently cynical ploy, okay? You need to understand. If the conversation is about what's currently happening, then that's a totally separate conversation to have. But if there was a serious initiative towards denuclearization and your argument is like, oh no, mutually assured destruction has kept the world safe, the idea that the world has been safe during the Cold War or the idea that the world is currently safe is ridiculous. It's only safe if you are in America. It's only safe if you are in the heart of empire, if you're in the imperial core. It's not safe at all for other countries. That's ridiculous. It's the notion that like, oh, we don't have world wars anymore. It's like, yeah, we don't, but there is never a moment where America is not engaged in some kind of war. It's just you're sheltered from the immediate impact of such things. Yeah, you can say, oh, dude, there's like, you know, you can rewind if you want. He's been taking questions for 10 minutes before he tuned in. No, it's fine. Especially because nuclear proliferation being the one thing that stops global powers, like superpowers, from fighting one another is ridiculous, because you have this cynical approach then where you automatically assume war is a constant. It is an inevitability. Like, nuclear deproliferation would be, or denuclearization would be, one very unimaginably significant point towards global peace. He's not equipped mentally, Trump says of Mitch McConnell, saying he never really had it. I don't know anything about he had polio, Trump says. Are you doubting that he had polio? I have no idea if he had polio. Delusional, out of touch LA millionaire take. That's amazing. Yes, I am a delusional, out of touch LA millionaire. And that's why I think denuclearization is never going to happen. But in theory, it would be better for the world. 07? Oh, you're going to be banned for this brave take? No, you're not. I'm not going to ban you, little man. Don't worry. War is a constant. We are violent by nature. Come on. Okay. Yeah. You don't understand. Okay. You don't understand. We always have to constantly engage in war with one another. Mankind has never actually engaged in the collaborative effort. Yeah. What's human nature? Do you think skyscrapers are human nature? Do you think space travel is inherent to human nature? None of these things are human nature. Okay. It's ridiculous. Get out of here. I think explaining nukes aren't a deterrent is a hard thing to describe to people that believe it, because it's tied directly to the belief that many people have had that the world runs on being selfish and rugged individualism. I know. Yeah. It is a, unfortunately, incredibly cynical way to approach the world, especially if we're having a conversation about, especially when we're having a conversation about an alternative that will never exist regardless, but we're having a conversation about an alternative vision for the future. Okay? We are just as collectivist minded as we are violent conquerors. Exactly. It's about what you choose to highlight. Trump is live again. Oh my God. He's crazy. Oh, he's doing the RFK Jr. flex now. Okay. Nice. Nothing works. RFK is actually breaking the broadcast, it seems. Holy what is happening? RFK has bricked the broadcast. What is going on? What is happening?
It's going to be a real honor for me.
Oh, there it is. Cheryl Hines is right there too.
The oath of office and officially become.
What is going on? Oh, they're rewinding the tape. Is there another feed? The RFK's alien brainworms are bricking the broadcast. It's over. Satan. RFK Jr.'s broken containment. This is not a drill. Oh yeah, it's over. As far as like, will denuclearization happen? Of course not. Don't be ridiculous. I'm not saying that it will happen, but if you're going to talk about it in theory, okay, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that countries having world-ending weapons at their inside of their arsenal is a good thing. It's not. It is one of the most dangerous aspects of modern society. Okay? Don't let these people turn around and lie to you and make it seem like everybody having nukes is a good thing. Restart player by closing tab and reopening it. I don't think it's the player that's busted. I think it's the broadcast that's busted, chatter. Everyone else is having the same issue. What is the chat saying? DEI, Elon, fix it. Someone needs to be fired over this. This take goes against the HasanAbi doctrine. Yes, the HasanAbi doctrine is a totally separate conversation. Okay? If we're having a theoretical conversation about denuclearization, which is if we're having a realistic conversation, is never going to happen. But if we're having a theoretical conversation about denuclearization, yes, of course I'm in support of it. There's a difference between what is the reality and what is theoretically better. Oh, it's working now. Never mind, it's still not working. Thoughts on all the anti-woke leftists on X? I don't know who the anti-woke leftists are.
Kennedy Jr. take the oath of office and officially become our Secretary of Health and Human Services. Just as I promised last year, Bobby is going to lead a great national mission to make America healthy again, and he's going to do it. I think he's going to do things that will really make us very proud of this day. Like his father, Senator Robert F. Kennedy, and his uncle, President John F. Kennedy, Bobby has devoted much of his life to serving his fellow Americans in his campaign for president, and he was a very tough competitor. I did not like it at all. I said, let's get him on my side. But in his campaign for president in 2024, Bobby brought together a coalition of supporters across party lines, and he really worked very hard, and he had tremendous support, unbelievable support, and I think a lot of that support came my way when we decided to do a little merger, and it was really great, and it was very loyal, incredible people. They believe in him so strongly because he's a fierce advocate for the health of our children and for the values of free speech, democracy, and peace. And people are going to be very impressed, I have no doubt. I've known him a long time. He's been a friend of mine a long time. Perhaps most importantly, though, Bobby created a nationwide movement made up of millions and millions of mothers and fathers and young people and concerned citizens of every background who want to end and this horrible chronic disease crisis that exists in America. He's absolutely committed to getting dangerous chemicals out of our environment and out of our food supply and getting the American people the facts and the answers that we deserve. After years in which our public health system has squandered the trust of our citizens, and they really have. They don't trust us. They don't trust anybody, frankly. They've gone through hell. There's no better person to lead our campaign of historic reforms and restore faith in American health care. And Bobby's going to do it. The United States spends more money in health than any other country on earth, but we're growing sicker every year. We're not as healthy as countries that spend just a fraction of what we spend, so there's something wrong. He's going to figure it out. In recent decades, we've seen staggering increases in cancer rates across all age demographics, including more than 40% increase in childhood cancer since 1975. Who can believe that? And an explosion in other chronic childhood illnesses. Not long ago, 1 in 10,000 people, children, had autism. Now it's 1 in 36. Think of that. 1 in 10,000. 1 in 10,000. Now it's 1 in 36. Who can believe that? There's something wrong. There's something wrong. And I think it's something that can be found out. In 2022, more than 40% of children had at least one chronic health condition, and today nearly 80% of young adults do not qualify for military service, in large part for health reasons. Think of that, 80%. Something is wrong, and that's why immediately after Bobby is sworn in, I executive order establishing the President's Commission to make America healthy again. We have some great people on that commission. Chaired by our new secretary, this groundbreaking commission will be charged with investigating what is causing the decades-long increase in chronic illness, reporting its findings, and delivering an action plan to the American people. And it's going to be a plan that people are really waiting to hear. Bobby, I want to thank you. You've gone through a lot. It's taken great courage.
Yes, autism increasing
You're gonna be okay.
is not because of
And he said, "I know,
vaccines
I really
or the
did."
proliferation of vaccines. Autism
Been
increasing
supported
is a
amazingly by
diagnosis
Cheryl and his family.
increase.
And
That's
it.
it.
Was very tough. It was a very nasty group of people that
That's
were
it.
after
It's
him,
just that
but he was
diagnosis
tougher
has
and
gotten
he was
better.
smarter than they
Or
are.
Twitch streamers
That's why
in
he's
general.
been
Twitch
there.
streamers have
People
increased
that
autism.
Understood the assault, but he was able to. So I just want to congratulate you, and we have a very special person here to swear you in. A man that I think has done just. I think he's just an amazing man.
It's also the same reason why it's mostly prominent in boys in general,
And he's,
or at least initially from the 90s onward. It was mostly prominent, seemingly only increased in boys. Why didn't it increase in women? Perhaps it has something to do with the social dynamic of a lot of the social conditioning that women go through, young girls go through, that make it harder to diagnose autism in women. Maybe that's the reason. Because it's not like women are getting vaccinated at a lower rate than men. You know? That's what's so stupid about it. It's because medical research around women is still, as a direct consequence of patriarchal constructs, significantly behind. That's it.
Okay, it's good so far. Good. It's a 10.
It's just a theory, though? What do you mean it's just a theory? What could it... There's nothing that, like, young men are experiencing that is, like, significantly different than young women. In terms of, like, vaccines, do you think that women are just not getting vaccinated? No, most of this stuff is just the same as the left-handedness argument, okay? Whether it's being gay... Whether it's like more queer people exist now in society, what's that about? Or there's more autism in American society, what's that about? Like virtually all of that is almost identical to the left-handedness argument. There's just a bunch of people who were left-handed normally, okay, and they were forced into writing and using their right hands. And once we stopped punishing people for doing that, there was a number of people that were left-handed, and it just stopped after a certain percentage. Yeah. The autism spectrum disorder is a vast criteria of different kinds of neurodivergencies that was put under the same umbrella and also had significantly better ways of diagnosis, especially since the 90s, which then led to a massive number of boys becoming autistic. Why are they becoming autistic? I've worked with boys with autism specifically, okay? And I can tell you, their parents were definitely autistic. The only difference was their parents were not diagnosed with autism, okay? That's it. They just weren't diagnosed. The notion that there is a ginormous disparity. Yeah, some might say I still work with a lot of men with autism now, but the notion that there is this gigantic disparity between men catching autism versus women catching autism immediately undermines the vaccination argument, okay? That's it. Like a lot of your parents have, some of you who are autistic have immediate family members that suspiciously have lifelike model trains, okay? They have an entire room dedicated to model trains, and that doesn't even ring any alarm bells in your mind about an autism diagnosis for your uncle, okay? Or for your dad. What the fuck do you think is going on? Yeah, that boy is autistic as hell, okay? The only difference is he grew up in the 60s, 70s, 80s where he wasn't diagnosed. Oh, no, you don't understand. He's just quirky. He just quirked up. He's just got his, key interests. Oh, yeah, okay.
Who was president then, where we talked about the environment. He was involved deeply, as we all know, in restoring physical fitness in this country. He challenged at one point during his administration, he challenged Americans to do a 50-mile walk, which I ultimately did.
Have you ever seen a severe case of autism like nonverbal? Yes.
His walk,
I have. And yes, the parents weren't nonverbal.
Up at Camp David, and my father came in after 18 hours walking on this, towpath with his feet bleeding and blisters on them. My father had one of his best friends was Al Lowenstein. And Al Lowenstein ultimately was a congressman from New York who was assassinated.
Me and my wife actually got invited to do a study about genetics and autism because both of our kids are diagnosed autistic. I got pretty high on that test too. Yeah.
Get rid of President Johnson and end the Vietnam War. And at the time that he started it, people just thought it was a fool's errand. And ultimately, he asked my father to run for president against Johnson. My father wouldn't do it at that time. And he asked Gene McCarthy. McCarthy did it, and he joined that campaign. And my father ultimately ran, and Johnson then dropped out. So Al Lowenstein succeeded. And although Al Lowenstein was on the other side now, running against my father with Gene McCarthy, my father wrote him a note, a quote from Emerson, where he said, if a single man plant himself firmly on his own ideal and there abide, the whole wide world will come round to him. For 20 years, I've gotten up every morning on my knees and prayed that God would put me in a position where I can end the childhood chronic disease epidemic in this country. On August 23rd of last year, God sent me President Trump. All right. And he gave me... Whoa. He's now given me, he's kept every promise that he's made to me. He's kept his word in every account and gone way beyond it. I'm so grateful to you, Mr. President. A lot of people told me that I couldn't trust President Trump. I better get it in writing. And we did a handshake, and everything that he told me he was going to do, he has done. Right. And I'm so grateful to him, and I've told you before, I genuinely believe that you are a pivotal historical figure, and you are going to transform this country at a time when we see all of the indicia of democracy now in tatters in our country. We see the rise of the military-industrial complex, the rise of totalitarianism, these attacks on our Constitution, and this breathtaking epidemic that is disabling our people. President Trump has promised to restore the American dream in this country. A healthy person has 1,000 dreams. A sick person only has one. 60% of our population has only one dream, that they get better. President Trump has promised that he's going to restore America's strength. But we can't be a strong nation if we have a weak citizenry.
I love that this man is the beacon of health, okay? I need you to understand what you're seeing right now. This man on screen, okay? This man right here, that's the beacon of health.
We need a man on a white
Do you understand me?
We need somebody
He's the healthiest boy
is
that has
willing to
ever
fight
existed.
And has the spine and the guts and the strength.
The reason why he looks like a rotisserie chicken that has been left out for too long is part of the reason why he's so healthy. It's the drugs that he took.
President Trump has shown again and again that he is that hero. And most recently, I greatly appreciate, and I called you the day that you announced the termination of USAID. My uncle started USAID in 1961 for humanitarian purposes, to put our country on the side of the poor. It has been captured by the military-industrial complex. It has become a sinister propagator of totalitarianism and war across the globe. And very few people understand how sinister this agency really is. And President Trump saw that, and he stood up to it with a masterstroke. And we want to do the same thing with the institutions that are stealing the health of our children. We need a revolutionary figure, and you are that figure. And
Yeah,
I'm very grateful
that's
to
right.
you for
The
giving
revolutionary
this
figure of Donald Trump.
I want to recognize some of the allies that I've had in this battle for a long time were Senator Rand Paul, Senator Ron Johnson, Senator Roger Marshall, Marjorie Taylor Greene,
Thank God.
and Buddy Carter, who've all been champions of the MAHA agenda before I even came along. And I'm very grateful for you for standing strong. Thank you very much, President.
Mr. Secretary, I'd like to ask, what plans do you have immediately at HHS now that you're sworn in?
He's going to be running it. He's going to do a great job.
What would you like to
That's
see
my
him do
plan.
first?
We're going to find out a lot of secrets that have been maybe kept from us, but he's going to come up with some solutions to some big, big problems. So,
Could you please explain why this administration is making a show going after the military-industrial complex? I don't remember anything like this during the election, and it seems like the Republican base won't support it. They're not. They're not. I'd be shocked if they actually did. Okay? Virtually everything they've done thus far is not about undermining the American military-industrial complex at all. If you look at where they're making cuts, it's shit like the NIH. Okay? They're not making cuts on anything. They're not making any cuts on, like, think about it this way, chatters. They quite literally also sanctioned they signed off on additional weapons to Israel. That was one of the first initiatives that this administration has made. I can't think of something that is more wasteful in terms of spending.
When people actually hear what I think about vaccines, which is common sense, which is vaccines should be tested.
If they ever cut funding to the military, it will be for veterans, okay? They'll say that they're undermining, the American empire or whatever, or at least that is how it will get presented in mainstream news. But the only thing they'll ever cut is veterans, spending on veterans' health care, things of that nature. Spending on veterans' housing, veterans' health care, maybe even college. As far as like what they talk about in terms of like the American military is so wasteful and we have to cut it, that's just populist sentiment, okay? They understand that a lot of people recognize the American military as a incredibly costly initiative, but that's it.
Thank you, guys. Let's go quickly, please. Quickly, guys. Come on.
The only other thing that I can foresee them doing in terms of like military spending cuts, I think, would probably come in the form of what are they doing with the nose thing? That's weird. Would probably come in the form of like maybe hiring more private contractors and outsourcing existing military operations to mercenaries. That's it. I don't think that they would cut to the military because the military is attached to the hip to the military industrial complex, and it's a massive sector. It's there's too much money to be made. Anyway, yeah, from here on out, anyone who wants to set healthcare policy for America needs to be able to bench press their body weight, pass the law Congress. First of all, RFK Jr. can't bench press his body weight. We saw how much his bench looked. We saw what his bench press looked like. And it's shocking. It's been shocking because I think so many people, even in the physical fitness industry, have been captivated by the way he looks and hasn't really looked into the functionality of RFK Jr.'s muscles. Because the irony, no, he's not Natty. He does TRT. He's Mr. TRT. Okay. The irony is that like when he was working out in jeans in this video and he did a bench press, he did an incline bench press with, I think, weight that is significantly lower than someone that looks like that would be able to put up, especially with all of the,
this is superficial.